everyone. Welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Rainieri, and today's guest is a world-class surfer who was on the world tour for 13 years and was inducted into the Surfing Walk of Fame as Woman of the Year in 2019. She's been featured in Sports Illustrated as well as ESPN's Body Issue and is the founder of the coffee and apparel brand Sea Tiger. Thank you so much for being here today, Courtney Conlogue.
Thanks for having me. So happy to be here and chat with you, Chelsea.
Yeah, me too. I grew up in Huntington, and so you've been like such a big presence in my hometown. So I've been really excited to get to talk with you.
I love that. Huntington has definitely adopted me. I know I'm born and raised Santa Ana girl, but HB's like my beach town. So I feel like I am a little bit of Huntington, you know? I'm like a 50.
Yeah. So you mentioned growing up in Santa Ana, but the first time that you fell in love with surfing was at 4 years old. Was that in Huntington or was that somewhere else?
It was actually in Punta Riojos, Mexico. So
cool.
Yeah. My family and I, we would go camping and surfing, and we'd pitch a tent, have a little convoy over there with a few families and spend time at the beach, surf, camp, fish. It was good vibes. And, that's initially how I got introduced into surfing. And then when I got home, learned at Blackie's Newport. And then from then I went to Huntington when I was like 5 or 6, started surfing the pier at that age. And then, the rest is history. I think my first US Open, I was like 12.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know very little about surfing because my husband and my dad surfs, but is there like a difference between like surfing at Huntington, surfing in Newport, or is it similar or?
I feel like every wave has its own personality, especially when you surf all these waves around the world, you start noticing the little characteristics. But I mean, both Huntington and Newport, there's a lot of beach breaks. I mean, you get the definition from the jetties and the piers and things like that, and river mouths. But they're both beach break spots. And then as you go south and north, you end up getting the cobblestone and some reef breaks and things like that. So there's definitely little nuances with all the surf spots, but like the OC coast is, except for Laguna area, is mostly sand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, 4 years old is so young to like start loving this incredible hobby. What or sport? What drew you to it initially? Do you have any memories of that young and trying it out?
I remember my first time standing up, it was actually on a boogie board because I was boogie boarding with my siblings, and I saw my dad out there surfing, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, can you show me how to stand up?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to push you in, and then you just pop up on this board." So my first time actually popping up was on a boogie board, but I was so little at the time. And then when I got home, we went to this Rip Curl outlet in San Clemente, and my dad had like $150 where he's like, "Court, this is the used rack. Pick any board that you'd like here." And there's this 511 Rawson. It was red and green. And at the time, I loved Christmas. And I was like, this is the board. And so now the thing's like lime green and orange because it's been so sun bleached. But I actually still have that board just because so many memories are carried in that. Yeah. And it's very sentimental.
I love that. How did you get the nickname Sea Tiger? Did that come when you were younger as well?
Yeah, I'd say just my work ethic. It started in martial arts. I was a little tiger. And then when I was surfing, Sea Tiger developed over time, and it was interesting how that happened. And I actually picked Sea Tiger to be my brand name just because of, I just feel like it carries strength and two of the things I absolutely love. And it's really empowering. And so I love the name Sea Tiger.
It's a freaking cool nickname.
Thanks. I know. It's not so bad. Huh?
Yeah, it's really cool.
My goal is to have like a ton of little sea tigers. I don't want to be the only sea tiger. I want like a ton of little sea tigers in the community, like all these people that are watermen and just individuals that want to elevate and bring light in the community. That just sounds amazing. So that's the goal.
That's so cool. And as you mentioned before, so at 11 years old, you became the youngest person ever selected to the USA Junior Surf Team.
Yeah.
How insane. What did being on that team entail?
Well, obviously like the team atmosphere with US surfing, that was very different. And when I got introduced into the US surf team, Peter Townend, PT, he was the coach for the US team. And I went to Tahiti as one of the alternate athletes. And I just remember observing everything. And it's more of a team sport with the US surfing and the ISA World Games, which surfing and competitive surfing is very individual. And to have that team camaraderie, I thought was always really cool. So I got introduced into the team surf side of things when I was young. So learning to work with others and like a heat was a lot of fun, strategizing, finding ways to get people through heats, when they might have been like the lower seed but they're from US. So it's like, how can I get them through? And so it was fun having that team atmosphere because you don't get that a lot in surf.
Yeah. Wait, so how is it how are you guys, are you surfing at the same time? Sorry, I know very little about this, but are you surfing at the same time or you go and then your other teammate goes and then all those points add up?
So in surfing, you have heats. So that format didn't change, but you have your teammates, like your nation that you would be competing with. And then you had like your team points. So US would have your own like rankings with everyone. And so your goal was to try to get all your teammates through because when they'd stay in longer, it allowed you to get the gold medal as a team, not just a team. Well, not as just an individual, if that makes sense. So it's like,
got it.
Yeah, you have your team result and then your individual. So if you got gold medal, the points for the individual goal were obviously best. And so that would help your team hopefully get team gold. So you would have like heats with 4 surfers in it, maybe 2 Americans and the Aussie and Brazilian. You'd want your 2 Americans to get through and the Aussie and Brazilian to go home.
Got it. Okay. And then so you won the world championship at the ISA World Surfing Games in Costa Rica in 2009, which helped the USA team secure their first gold medal since 94. Yeah. How were you feeling that day? Like, what do you remember about that day?
I just remember there's these moments where in surfing or in anything where you get in this flow state, and I was on a bit of a winning streak, and that was, I had won the Supergirl and then US Open. And then I flew right from US Open the day, I think it was the day of or the day after I flew out to Costa Rica to then compete at ISA Worlds. And then I was just in this confident flow state where I wasn't overthinking. I was just, surfing is very intuitive and where you have to trust your gut and just back yourself. And so when I was competing, I was just in this awesome flow state the whole event. And obviously I had competed in the ISA games since I was 11. So the experience helps. And I was working with my friend Sage Erickson, my fellow teammate, and she and I rallied and got her through heats. And then we were in the final together and we ended up getting team and individual gold that year, which was really special because we hadn't had a team gold in a long time as well.
Yeah. That's amazing. I can't even imagine what that must have felt like.
It was special.
Yeah. And then a few days before graduating high school, so to go back a bit, you got an email that you had qualified to go on tour with what is now the World Surf League. I read that you were kind of going through making the decision of, do I go on tour or do I go to college? How did you come to ultimately make the decision to go on tour?
Yeah, the thing about life is like you live this life once and I always had a dream of being a pro surfer and being on the tour and didn't really, obviously, when you make some of those goals, you don't know what they entail, being and living on the tour. And gosh, it was just a dream come true to qualify. Yeah. And at the time, there wasn't much security or stability on the world tour with surfing for women. And I was looking at it. I spoke with my mom about it, my dad. My first year on tour, I was actually attempting to do school online. But online back then, was very different than what it is now. It's very accessible now and it's done a little smoother. I feel like COVID kind of helped get those kinks out that I was dealing with internationally. And now it's just, yeah. And then once I was on tour, I decided, I got to submerge myself in this and not divide myself into two places, because then I'll probably fail. So I just dove into surfing and dove into competing full time and ended up creating a lot of success,
Yeah. And I didn't realize how long you were on tour for. So it's 250 days out of the year?
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. Yeah, because especially it probably was more when I was younger. Wow. Because it was a mix of doing tour and the qualifying series, which is now the Challenger series. Because my first, I want to say 3 or 4 years, I made sure I double qualified. So I qualified on the qualifying series and the world tour just to ensure I stayed on tour. And so I ended up having 1 year, I think almost 16 events. So, and all international, like none at home except for the Open. So,
wow. How were you training?
A training like physical fitness stuff or ocean stuff?
I feel like physical and mentally, because it's kind of 16 competitions. Like, what are you doing both physically and mentally to get ready for these?
Well, the preseason for me, before I even got on tour, all my prep was a lot of physical training, getting in the gym. I used to train at Extreme Athletics, which is now Surf Ready Fitness, but I had a trainer there, Jonathan Brown, and then Paul Norris I worked with as well a little bit. But me and John, we would do so much hard work in the preseason and just put a lot of time in. And then my mom and dad, we'd run drills and heats similar to what I do with the U.S. team now. And just would work on developing my strategy skills and just sharpening all my little arsenal so I was ready for when the season would start. And then the first couple of years of tour, because I didn't surf any of these locations, there was a lot of being a student and just observing what all these waves did and taking notes, observing what brought success to athletes, and just learning. And so then it just had a compound effect of making success and just persevering to overcome.
Yeah. It seems like there's such a science to it, like knowing how to surf certain spots and stuff.
Yeah. There's, every wave's super different. I mean, you could grab little nuances from every wave to create a system where you're like, okay, I understand this, but there's definitely a lot of variables, and the ocean's always evolving and changing. And if you have anything super fixed and rigid, it probably won't work in the ocean. That classic like Bruce Lee, be like water. You literally just want to flow, Yeah. And you create these plans, but you want them to be malleable, where you're willing to adapt if you see the ocean start changing a little bit. So, and knowing when that's happening just because you've put the time in.
Wow. So during your second year on tour, you were sick and you still won your first World Tour event as you were recovering. What mindset did you have at that moment that helped you push through? So if I have a slight body ache, I'm done.
I was literally in ER.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. Not just the flu. Wow.
Yeah, so I ended up catching something at Bell's from the runoff. I think it was the cattle runoff or something. I was surfing Winky Pop for like 6 hours after I had lost out. And it was kind of interesting. It was a classic loss where you can't control the ocean. You could have the best plan, but the ocean, sometimes it's not your day. And so I went to wash off that loss, and the waves were fun at Winky Pop, which is a wave just down the way, and ended up getting super ill because it was raining there and got sick. Ended up having a flight to New Zealand while I wasn't feeling well. and everything's, long story short, go to ER, ended up having to get some shots. They didn't know what I had. They're like, we're going to just try to get this inflammation out and try to help you through it, put me on some antibiotics. Ended up losing quite a bit of weight there, fly to Manly.
Oh, wow.
And barely start feeling better. And I told Mom, I'm like, you know what? If I don't win an event this year, I am pivoting and I am going probably go back to school. and I was just like, I just gave myself that, like, you gotta rise, Court. You gotta show up, make it happen, because nothing else is going to do it. And then just guess I dug deep, had some pure grit, and Mom and I had like a Forrest Gump Lieutenant Dan moment while I was training. And we wore the weather together. And a few days later, I was being cheered up by Steph Gilmore and Sally Fitzgibbons. And that started my learning the formula on how to win on the tour, because there is a formula for how to win heats, you know?
What do you can you elaborate on that?
Well, there's just things that you have to learn, you know, when you compete, and how to adapt. And you know, you have judges where things are scored, and just knowing how to win and how to strategize to give yourself the best opportunity to have a positive outcome, you know? Obviously, the ocean, there is a little bit of luck put into it, but what you want to do is just control the outcome as much as you can through strategy and how you can turn something nothing into something, you know, the classic, like, have lemons, make lemonade, and stay positive. So,
God, that's such an inspiring. And also, I was reading about in 2014, you suffered an injury at the Rip Curl Pro Bells Beach in Australia that forced you to withdraw when you were poised to take home the gold. I can't imagine. And so, but what did having to step back and recover teach you?
A lot, you know. I mean, obviously, I had to endure being put into the hospital in New Zealand. And I feel like when you're down, you have to dig deep and you have to step back and find ways to rise and how to endure and get through moments of challenge. And, you know, my mom, ever since I was young, she always told me, Courtney, nothing's hard. It's just challenging. And when I tore my ankle, I was definitely feeling it, because I felt like I was in that flow state similar to Costa Rica. Sometimes you just know, you could feel it.
Yeah.
Where you could just do no wrong. And I injured myself in the training session. Actually ended up trying to surf at Bell's the next morning with this ankle that was pretty obliterated. Like, I could have made things way worse. But yeah, it was just flopping. And so it was a serious injury, and having to say I can't compete was vinegar in my mouth. You know, it's not something I do. I don't tap out. And so they had taped me up. They weren't going to give me the shot that would numb it, because they kind of knew what was happening to my ankle. And this is all at 6 a.m. And so I'm like, well, they're like, Court, go catch a warm-up wave on it then. If you want to compete, you should be able to warm up on it. And so I paddled out there, caught a wave, stood up, did a turn. I could feel my foot separating from my ankle. And I was like, oh, that's so excruciating.
Was it your Achilles?
It was my syndesmosis, ATFL, a few different ligaments in my ankle were torn, and I hurt my Achilles. Could have been riding that way. I don't know, but my Achilles wasn't right for a while. But yeah, and then I was in a moon boot for 6 weeks, and I remember I dialogued with a mentor, and he's like, Court, these moments, you could see it as a burden, or you could look at it as an opportunity on how you can grow. And so ever since that moment, I kind of look at any situation, positive or negative. It's like, okay, is this a burden or an opportunity? And I always give myself the choice, but I always pick the opportunity one, because, you know, there's so many ways to learn through being hit down or having to endure struggle like that. And ways to grow through it. And I feel like through that, I became such a strong athlete, just on mindset, and how to just pull back, reflect, and grow and find ways to level up through the process.
Yeah. And some great business opportunities came during that time too, right?
Well, I ended up doing some stuff with like Got Milk during that time, which was fun.
Yeah.
And then
That's so
some
cool.
other opportunities for sure. I don't know. Life's kind of a blur. It's funny. I kind of like move forward. I keep going, okay, what's this week entail? And then everything else is back there that I've done, because I'm always I'm always evolving and just creating new version. Hopefully always a better version, always just try and find ways to elevate. So all that I learned through it, and then I move forward from it. So I'm sure I did some fun stuff during that time.
Yeah.
I did get involved in pro paddling during that time though. And that was one of the things that I've carried through my whole career and made me such a great paddler as an athlete in my contests. So
that's great. Also, just quick side note, I actually am dealing with the partially torn Achilles from pickleball. So not anything cool.
You pickleballers.
Dude, it was my first and last time ever playing this game. I was like, I didn't respect the sport. I went in, I didn't stretch.
Yeah,
definitely recommend stretching before pickleball. Yeah.
So I have so many friends that love pickleball, and I'm like, I don't know. I can see how it seems really fun, but I don't know. I'm such a water baby. It's like put me in the ocean, or like I'll play some golf. Golf is fun.
Yeah, there you go.
It's such a mental game for sure.
Well, speaking of your injuries, you also suffered several concussions during your time as a professional surfer, and you had to learn how to relearn how to read and tell time. I can't imagine how scary that must have been.
Tell time? I don't know about the tell time.
Okay, I saw it in an article.
Sometimes I know. Well, I did have to relearn reading. It was interesting. So the reason I discovered that is because I'm always trying to gain more knowledge. I'm a student always, and so I pulled the book out and I was like trying to read, and next thing you know, an hour went by, and I kept like skipping and couldn't keep track and couldn't comprehend it. Long story short, I was like, this isn't good. And I was doing neurofeedback. Those the early stages of it. And then ended up, as I was doing the neurofeedback, meditating a lot, doing a lot of other great things to just heal the body and the mind. And it took quite a while for me to be able to read again. And but I ended up last year, which isn't a lot. My sister's read like over $200 this year. So she's incredible. Anyone who reads that much, I'm like, God, you're insane. I read like $20 last year, and I thought that was a big deal. And then she's like, oh yeah, I'm like in 200 right now in a year. I'm like, whoa, I got some catching
I'm at 20. I'm at 20 currently, but it's all fairy books. So I don't really know if I can like claim that as intelligence.
I mean, it's reading, but yeah, no, but it's all that compound effect. And the way I looked at it was like, I had a brain that was like an infant, and I'm just going to work on the neuroplasticity and the myelin and just like try to rebuild my brain, from the ground up. And just, you look at babies, they're always learning. And so we're pretty resilient, I think, as humans, and we can endure a ton. So it's just finding a way to adapt and rebuild that circuit, and just get it triggering and firing properly. And also being patient. I had to learn through meditation how to just observe and not judge my mind and my thoughts, and work through anything that was like, just, I didn't need it any longer, and just move through it all and just let it flow like clouds in a sky,
Yeah, that's incredible. Were they concussions from the surfboard, or were they
hitting the water super hard? And the last
way
one,
you can get a concussion that way?
Oh yeah, it's well, I would surf really fast and on big waves, and like the bottom of a wave will stretch out. And I mean, we're moving quick. A lot of surfers on the tour, we surf really quick. And when you hit water, it's hitting concrete. And then 2 of them were that way. And then one, I broke my board with my head and my back. And then I think I hit the sand. I don't totally remember
wow.
all of it. But yeah, that was the last straw, I think. The first 2 were like, I was able to grit and kind of just utilize being resilient and like kind of block it, and just go, okay, this is a little issue, but how can I just utilize these strengths to get through this and kind of sideline it, because I'm in a season right now and I want to win.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was just build up, and it was just waiting. And the last one, it took me a while till I could surf again. And I didn't even know if I would be able to surf, because some of the side effects were like vertigo. And
Oh, that sounds awful. That's really intense.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a part of being an athlete. You have things that happen. And when you're pushing your level, it's, you always take calculated risks, but it's just like life, things happen.
Yeah.
You can try to control everything, but sometimes things are just out of your control, and you just have to flow and just, keep picking yourself up when you get down. But and then once I got through all the concussion stuff, I feel like I didn't feel 100% for a couple of years, I'd say. But now I feel like I'm doing great, if not better, and just have better understanding of the way my mind works. And, I had read a book before the concussion, Talent Code. And there's all these books that when you read it, you're like, okay, you read it. But I've actually lived like some of these things that you learn about, and I feel like for me, I'm very tactile visual, maybe a little too tactile, where I have to live through it all to learn it all. But I feel like it allows me to be a good guide and mentor now and help people elevate and get through, the highs and the lows.
Yeah. Well, to fast forward a little bit, in 2020, you were featured in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, and you got to shoot in Turks and Caicos. I saw the photos; they're stunning. Take me back to this day. What was it like shooting with them?
It was really cool. I've had some opportunities like that to just do some more, like some really cool issues like that one. The ESPN body was a great experience. And MJ with the Sports Illustrated, she was one of the producers, and she was amazing to work with. The team that I had at Turks and Caicos were incredible and just made you feel comfortable to just like be yourself. And it was such a gorgeous place to shoot. So anytime I'm in the ocean, I feel like I'm at home. Anytime I'm in the ocean or on the beach, so it's definitely where I'm most comfortable. And so, all the photos turned out great. It's a cool experience. Enjoyed the process. Yeah.
And how about the body issue? Where'd you guys shoot for that one?
That was actually pretty cool. They had never gone international for the ESPN body issue. And initially they wanted to do it in a studio. And I expressed that I don't feel like surfing or me as an athlete could be really expressed in a studio. And if you do anything like that, like the body issue, for me, I always look at sculptures at like the Louvre and stuff. And they always had their Olympians and carved in stone. And so nowadays I look at the body issue as our version of doing that. It's photographing the body and showing how we sculpt ourselves in order to be the athletes we are, Our bodies are very functional and made to do what we do in the water. And so I had this whole concept of how I wanted surfing and my photos to be portrayed. So my photographer, Stephen Littman, and I took time, conceptualized it. I want an underwater shot, a surf shot, and then a rock run, a running shot. And all the shots I thought were done so well and with class, and I loved it. So no regrets there.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. Did you were you nervous at all, or did you practice posing before?
My family and I were, I'm like pretty conservative. So for me, I didn't know how I would be when the whole moment happened. I'm like, you know what? I get to run around in my birthday suit, and this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I might as well submerge and immerse myself in this experience. And I ended up having a lot of fun, but you never know how you're going to react when you're just streaking around all day. And, but it was a good experience because, and with photos, you can't hide emotion. So you need to come from a place of comfort and strength to actually express what you're wanting to show, because I don't feel like photos lie. But it was a cool experience. The rock run shot underwater was probably the most difficult. And the surf shot, because I was over an inch of, it was maybe a foot of water and dry reef that was razor sharp. So if I had fallen, I would have got really injured. So that was probably the most dangerous one. The rock run shot is about 30 to 40 feet underwater.
Whoa. How long can you hold your breath?
A couple minutes, but
dang.
I was doing that over and over again to get the right shot. So it was like breath hold training for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That would be scary, being under 30 to 40 feet of water. I've never been that deep ever.
Yeah. For me, it was just over time, the equalizing gets a little tough when you're fatigued and I had no goggles, no fins. So I was just swimming and, it was definitely tough. And then grabbing the rock and running up and trying to be aware of my body positioning and make sure I got the right shot, where I was with it. And
so cool. Well, speaking of incredible feats, you also did the Molokai to Oahu paddle last year. So tell me about that. How many miles was that, and how did you train for it?
I ended up being 38 miles because, so it's called the Channel of Bones. And I have a feeling, I haven't read all the history of it, but there's a lot of beautiful history with the Hawaiian Islands and crossing them. And that channel, there's a lot of current, a lot of cross swells, and it was definitely different from my Catalina crossing to Huntington. That one's 32, but it was flat water. So that's just enduring, just pushing yourself through body stuff. Where your body and your mind start having this internal dialogue, which it was a really cool day for me. I was feeling really light at the Catalina one, and the Molokai one was an incredible experience where you have more variables. So it's a more stimulating paddle where you're adapting, you're reading the ocean's contours, and you're riding these random little chops and finding that flow state and adapting with currents. And I think 87 different teams had to tap out that year because the current pulled them too far out of the area where they wouldn't get to the end in time. So it was a pretty gnarly crossing year, but fun.
Yeah. I don't know why I have to ask, but did you the thought of sharks run through your mind at all? I would just be thinking about that.
I mean, they're always there, but honestly, I'd be more nervous if I were anyone that's scared of sharks in the ocean. I'd be more nervous driving on the highway. Like my friends.
That's what my husband says.
They deal with way more issues than lifeguards or sharks. Just saying.
Right. That's true. That's true. That's my.
I've had shark experiences quite a few times, mostly in Western Australia. Just because when we were competing, the salmon were running. So there's great whites, obviously, wanting the salmon, and thrasher sharks feeding on the schools of fish. But at the end of the day, we aren't what they're wanting. They want the salmon, they want the fish. We're just crossfire, if anything, happens. But, and then a few times where I've gone free diving with sharks without a cage, and you start realizing how beautiful they are and majestic they are as creatures. And I feel
Yeah.
like it gives you a little bit of a perspective because we're always in their home and we're
Right.
existing amongst them, So
Yeah, that's so true. I know my husband always says the same thing. He's like, it's not a big deal. It's not a thing.
yeah.
So last year as well, you coached the USA Junior Surf team. What did this experience teach you about coaching?
Yeah, for me, coaching is pretty cool because I feel like the whole mentoring thing, it's really fun to guide this next generation and give them the tools that I had to learn through my family and just training and just life experiences, but give them the tools that help them regulate their stress and believe in themselves, gain confidence when they're doubting, and honestly empower them to where they can make good decisions. And so I'm kind of just flowing them in the right direction is how I look at myself. I'm kind of the one holding the map, but they're the one at the driver's seat taking the turns when they feel like it's the right time, because they're in the water by themselves. I'm on the beach. I help them create and generate a plan. And then they go out there, and the biggest thing for me is I want them to back themselves and believe they can do it, because that's so crucial. So I give them the tools and the confidence to get through those doubtful moments if they have it,
Yeah, what an incredible coach to have. Were there any moments where you were just like so excited and happy and seeing them?
Oh yeah,
win?
There's so many little moments, I couldn't pin my finger on one. There's like definitely a handful where, it's really special. My whole job when I was competing on the tour was, my goal was to find the one thread that would unravel that whole competitor's sweater and just break them. And so with coaching, it's like the reverse of that. It's like, what's that thread that I can tidy up and, do a little stitching for? And then how can I enhance this athlete to give them the tools where they can elevate and believe and come from a place of positive. And a lot of things are subconscious where I'll be nudging them and guiding them and then have them come to their plan. But I'm asking them questions versus telling them exactly what to do to lead them to their solutions, and a sounding board where they could be transparent with and not be judged, so.
Yeah. You sound like an incredible leader.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, and then
I'm always learning, but I think the biggest thing that with being an athlete or a coach is learning to listen and realizing we have 2 ears for a reason, one mouth,
Yeah.
So it's like, make sure you're listening to the athlete and not thinking you know what they need. And you usually end up just being able to give them a couple keywords to where they're not overthinking and where they could just go out there and have a simple plan and get through the process successfully, higher odds.
Yeah. Well, and then in addition, last year as well, you collaborated with the swimsuit brand Jolene. And then you've also collaborated with brands like Swatch in the past. Where do you find design inspiration for these types of partnerships?
Well, I've always had a massive love for fashion, and one of my favorite designers when I was younger, and still one of my favorite timeless designers, is Ralph Lauren. And so with the Jolene collection, what I wanted to do was create timeless patterns with functional material and really tailored lines to where it showed like the female body in a beautiful feminine way. Because like for me as an athlete, I mean, I rode for Billabong for 14 or 16 years. And then before that I was on Roxy. And so I've used a lot of surf industry bikinis and worn all So I knew what worked and what didn't. And so with my collection, I wanted to create something where I knew it worked and I knew it was going to look beautiful on almost every body was my goal, and really show the beauty of the athlete, but be functional as well. So like all my suits, I'd say over half of them were made to actually be performance, but you could wear them by the pool or on the beach and feel really good in it, So, and I love stripes and florals. So I wanted to make sure I had some of that. And Payne's Gray is one of my favorite colors. So I put that in the collection as well. And I really enjoyed the process. And I feel like I get my inspiration from the ocean most of the time.
And speaking of the ocean, you started painting and they're gorgeous. And they've been displayed at Huntington Beach International Surf Museum. What first drew you to this medium?
Well, I've been doodling in my school book since I was a little kid. Ever since I was in elementary, I was drawing waves in my notebook. Now it's just, I draw waves because I love doing it. And what I love doing is also showing the energy and what I see in the wave, and a different perspective, because I feel like a lot of waves are done in the natural blue tones or very realistic. And so what I do is more of an abstract realism where I incorporate that abstract aspect in with my realistic perspective of details on waves, because I have a pretty intimate connection to them.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to go back and look at them. So how do you use the color to portray that?
Well, so like the Warm Embrace one, it's a wave where it's all the primary colors like that. That wave itself, if you saw a wave like that in the ocean, you would probably think your life's in threat, but I see the beauty and the happiness and levity. And that's what I create through colors and just the textures and things I create. I make that wave look warm and happy and inviting. And that's what I see in the wave. And then the Pacific Gyre one, I used bubble wrap tequila bottles and like all these different things that are pretty much upcycled. So I call it Pacific Gyre because of the garbage patch in the ocean. And I wanted it to have inspiration of just the ocean enduring all that. And so, yeah.
They're gorgeous paintings. And in addition to the Surf Museum, is there anywhere else that people can see them or purchase them?
Yeah, at Cersei Stillworks.
It's no way.
Distillery, off of Gothard. And so they have a lot of work up there right now. And then online on my website, CourtneyConlogue.com, I have some abstract art as well because it's more flow state work. And I feel like it really elevates homes as well. And it's been really fun just painting, because for me, like when I'd paint, it was when I didn't know what to write. And so I would express it through words and colors and just patchy words. And I do like collage work or paint waves and just try to find that escape in my canvas. So, that's how painting started. And I would gift people to inspire them to take a risk with the painting. I'd be like, what painting can I paint for this person that will inspire them to take a risk? And so, yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's such a nice gift.
Yeah, it was really, it was a fun way because I never just buy something, or just give something and give something. And so I always want something I gift someone to be coming from a place of meaning and show the care that I have for the individual. And so I'm almost doing that now when I paint for others and just sharing that love and passion and compassion and strength and all the things I stand for. I share that through my art. And so I'd write for my friends or someone I was trying to inspire. I'd write on the inside frame something that was a little enlightening or empowering to try to nudge them to take action.
Oh, that's so thoughtful. Okay, so lastly, tell me about your brand, Sea Tiger. How did you get into the apparel and coffee business?
So, obviously doing all the design work, I just love designing and clothing for me is art on people.
Yeah.
So it's a fun way for me to just share my love and passion with others. And for me, a cup of coffee is family and friends socializing and sharing stories and meeting new people and community. And so for me, art and coffee and apparel is just all those things in one. And right now with Sea Tiger, it's in a transformation stage where I might be taking a pivot that will help me reach more individuals in time and inspire them. I'm actually in the process of getting my CPT certification so I can help guide people to meet their best self and just level up. I feel like in society, having that guide and that mentor to help lead down a way that they don't know necessarily how to get there. That's what I'm striving to do. And that's where Sea Tiger is going to transform in time.
Wow. Sorry. What's CPT?
My certified personal trainer certification.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
So I'm going to do that and nutrition. And just because of all the coaching and mentoring, and my family went through a bit of stuff. And one of my family members was like, Court, you need to do this. Like, you're very natural in this. Like, you should probably look into getting your certification. I'm like, okay. I'm like, worst thing, I'm going to learn.
Yeah, right.
But honestly, I've been training for over 25 years, as an athlete. And so being able to help elevate people and help them reach their goals when they don't know how to get there. My friends have always thought I help bring light and empower them to take action. So I'm like, how can I do this on a bigger scale in my community? And so that's what I'm striving to do now with Sea Tiger. So the coffee will still be there, but and the apparel, those will still be there, but I want to do something greater with it. So
how exciting. Yeah. Is there anything else that listeners should keep an eye out for in addition to all the incredible things we've talked about?
Gosh, I feel like we touched on a lot today.
I know. Yeah.
I always tell hear Montauk, I'm like, I feel like I'm the Swiss Army knife. It's like, what do I need today? I'm a woman of many hats and I love hats. So it's perfect.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think just stay in touch with Sea Tiger. It's going to go through a transformation stage where I'm going to do surf and wellness retreats. Long story short, I'm going to be doing that, create some courses to help guide people on how I reached my goals and create a platform for them to reach theirs with a community, So.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So what are some characteristics that you feel are important to being a world-class surfer?
3 characteristics. I'd say grit, adaptability, and I feel like perseverance is kind of in grit. Humility, I think. I think when you have a little bit of that, it's really good. There's a lot of strength in that. I'd say another thing is like kind of on that stuff. When I was going through a really tough year, I feel like I created this quote that I feel like everyone could utilize at some point in their life. And it's, I will wear the weather and dance in the rain.
I love that. God, that's so good. How'd you come up with that?
Long story. I don't think we have enough time to go into it. I was having to endure a lot at the start of my year where I was having to sleep on couches because of Airbnb issues and my car got broken into, everything stolen. And and this is a week before I had my tour starting. So everyone tries to create the perfect scenario, is like, you could do all that, but sometimes life is testing you and it's not bullying you. It's just showing you that you can endorse all this stuff. And, you just learn to handle it and grab those rain boots and dance. Find a way to smile and see the positivity. And connect with individuals that can help guide and get you through it all.
Yeah, I love that. And then lastly, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now?
You got this.
I love that.
Yeah, I think just believe, I think there's so many things that'll test you in life, and just believing and being willing to work hard and the power of the compound effect. Nothing happens overnight, and it's not always, everyone wants this straight, beautiful path up. But the reality is like at the end of the day, all those enduring stories are the things that you're like, yeah, I got through that. I got
Yeah.
It's like, you go, girl,
Yeah.
So it's like everyone just needs to have that cheerleader, and sometimes it's going to have to be you.
Yeah. God, not me like applying this to my pickleball injury and being like, we can push through.
Yeah, you got it. And like my whole goal when I got injured is like, how can I come out of this injury better than I was before I was injured, and like finding time to pull back. And like, I feel like injuries force you to reflect. They allow you time from certain things that you might need a break from. Yeah. And you end up growing in ways that you didn't realize you needed to. And then you get to the other side and you have all these new tools that you're like, wow, I'm happy I have this for my toolbox now. Now I could do all this,
God, yeah, that's so true. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. This was such a dream of mine. So I just really enjoyed getting to talk with you.
Oh, yeah, of course. And thanks for taking time today, Chelsea. And we'll have to, I'm sure there'll be more stories in years to come.
Yes, definitely. I know. We'll have to do this again. This was so fun.
For sure. And thank you so much for everything. And
of course.
A joy to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.